Hi, this is Michael Yardney in our regular Rich Habits, Poor Habits webcasts. And I'm in Australia, and on the other side of the ocean, we've got Tom Corley, best-selling author in the United States. Welcome once again, Tom.
It's great to be back, Michael.
Now, Tom, today I'd like to talk a bit about a misconception, because a lot of people think that you don't have to work hard to become rich. They like the concept that your money is going to work for you, your property, your real estate, your shares are going to work for you. And it eventually gets that way. But Tom, in my study of the wealthy people, I've found you've got to work really hard till you build a big enough asset base that you don't have to work hard anymore. What have you found, Tom?
Well, there's a reason for that, Michael. I found, most of the wealthy in my study had 65% of them had at least 3 streams of income, 3 sources of income. So they created 3 assets. Now, they didn't just create those 3 assets yesterday. They probably created those 3 assets over 20 years. And those 3 assets were generating enough income where it was providing them an enormous amount of wealth. So I found that they had multiple sources of income. That forces them to work a little bit harder because, it's not one job, you have 3 jobs. And also because your streams of income in many cases are your own businesses, even side businesses. There were some individuals who were wealthy in my study who were senior executives at big companies, but they had multiple streams of income from real estate and from other investments. And they had to manage those investments. So they were working around the clock. They were working 50, 60 hours a week. In fact, 44% worked 11 hours or more each week, more than the poor people.
That's interesting. But interestingly, they were working to build a business or build assets that one day would give them passive residual income. In other words, income when they didn't work. I know how many hours, how many months, how many weeks you spent writing your first book, Rich Habits, without any pay. And now years later, the royalty is still coming in. That's the same with real estate investors who work hard, save, get a deposit, and then eventually build an asset that increases in value, or stock investors who build a portfolio and then the dividends come in and the value of the shares come up. So it's not just working, but you've actually got to work, not trading your time for money, but to build passive residual income, Tom.
Yeah, that's right. So those assets that the wealthy created that generate all those multiple streams of income, in the early years, they generated absolutely no income. They were just pure investment in time and money. And this is where it gets a little sketchy, Michael, because imagine you're at something for 4 or 5 years and there's absolutely no return on investment. You have to really be persistent to be successful in life. So you're going to have that voice in your head that says, hey, you're wasting your time. You're not generating any income. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And now you're generating an enormous amount of income because you hit a tipping point. And this is where I think it's important for a lot of people who want to pursue something in life on their own personal thing. It's going to require a great deal of time and effort and money, in some cases, to create that asset. But at some point, that asset it's like you flip a switch, and that asset turns on and it starts churning out money, and it doesn't stop because you've invested all of this time and money. You've built this side business, and now it's paying dividends. That's what I found the most successful people were doing. They were building these side businesses, these residual income streams. But in the early days, they made absolutely no money. They were in debt. They took on debt risk. They took risk by, earmarking their time for something that wasn't generating income. They were getting it from all sides, their spouse, their family. What are you doing, Michael? You're wasting your time. This is crazy. So they really had to believe in themselves and be persistent.
Tom, I bet some people are watching this and saying, I haven't got time, Michael. I haven't got time, Tom. I'm busy doing this. I'm looking after the children. I've got a job already. Where do the wealthy people find the time to do this?
At 5 a.m. in the morning. That's what I found. 44% of the wealthy in my study woke up 3 hours or more before they actually got into the office. And they spent those 3 hours devoted to something they were passionate about. And here's to your point, I don't have the time for this, I don't have the time for that. What that really is saying to me, Michael, is I have no passion in life. I have nothing that excites me that I would spend the time on. Because I'll tell you this, Michael, what I found from my research is when you stumble upon a dream or a purpose, you always find the time. You always are able to find the time to pursue that dream or that purpose. It doesn't matter that you have 3 kids or 4 kids or 6 kids. You will find the time. It's just the people that are saying that are actually just saying, I just haven't found the thing that excites me in life.
Either that or they put a different value on it. They put more value on the internet or on television or going to watch the football or baseball or cricket or sport. So it's really, we've all got the same amount of time. Interestingly, Tom, I agree with you. I've found most successful people do get up earlier. I know your early morning habit is writing. I know I actually get up an hour or so before Pam, and that's the most productive time for me of when there's nobody around and people say to me, Michael, how do you write 1 or 2 books a year, publish all those blogs every day, run a couple of seminars, run a national company? And it's because I've allocated my time and I've actually done some good learning on time management. I think that's going to be a great topic for another session with us as well, Tom. But I agree with you that early morning time of getting up and doing it using it productively is a great time habit. Tom, anything else you'd like to discuss about how the rich work more than the poor?
The amount of time that they put in that is greater than the amount of time that the poor put in isn't an enormous amount of time, Michael, and this is an important point. At least from my research, it's about 11 hours a week additional.
That's not a lot.
Not a lot, but that 11 hours is every day. That 11 hours is every week. It's every year. It's for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. That adds up to a lot of time. So, I was sitting at a bar with a friend of mine the other day, and he was saying, my God, you got your CFP, you got your Series 7, you got your life insurance, you wrote 4 books, you do all these speaking engagements. How do you do it? I mean, it's unbelievable. And I stopped and I thought to myself, that is an amazing amount of productivity. It made me feel proud of myself, and I'm not that kind of person. I'm very humble. But it boiled down to those 3 hours in the morning. Michael, that's the reason. It was those 3 hours in the morning that I devote to this stuff. And it's not just the writing and all the productivity. I devote about 30 to 60 minutes to health, too. So, I mean, it's a combination of things, but that 3 hours in the morning is my most productive time of the day.
Now, you said you devoted some time to health. Tom, if one devotes time to exercise and health, how does that affect the way you work?
Well, of course, what we now know, there's an abundance of research out there that shows that aerobic activity actually increases the amount of energy that you have every day. What it does is it amps up your metabolism while you're exercising, and then it creates a lower baseline. And that lower baseline means that you can function during the day at a lower metabolic rate than the average person can, simply because you spend 30 minutes a day doing aerobic activity. It lowers your metabolic baseline. It means you have more energy reserves for the whole day. There's plenty of studies out on this. Plus, I found that the exercise, particularly the aerobic exercise, increases the number of new brain cells that are born, and it increases the size of existing brain cells. It makes your existing brain cells healthier. So, I mean, and here's the thing. When your brain cells get healthier, that translates into a higher IQ. You become more intelligent. So you want to exercise.
So there's still hope for me, Tom, is there?
There's hope for all of us.
Tom, one of the things I've noticed is when we talk about people working harder, it's not always physical work. Some of it's study, some of it's learning. That's a separate sort of work. But the other is networking, Tom. That's a great form of work, isn't it?
Yeah, and what I found in my research, Michael, was that the wealthy averaged about 5 hours a month networking. So they were engaged in some type of networking activity. It might be, a small business group, a nonprofit, a volunteer group. It might be that they're on the board of directors of some organization. They might be networking in a formal networking group or a mastermind group. There's any number of things. I've counted about 15 different ways that the rich network, but they all do it. So obviously we should be doing it if we want to be successful, right?
Definitely, Tom. I think one of the other things we should mention is that the rich people find time to exercise, they find time to work more, but they also find time for their family. But a very important thing, and we spent some time together at Wealth Retreat with some of the wealthiest people in Australia, people in my mentorship group, and we found another thing they do, I know you do, I know Pam, you and Denise do, Pam and I do, is we also find time to give back to the community. It's not just about money, it's not just about how many toys you've got or how many properties or shares you've got, is it, Tom?
No, actually, it's probably the number two goal of mine is to the reason I want to become so successful in this rich habits business of mine is because I know if I can become a brand name and become really widely known, I can use my celebrity, so to speak, to help some of the nonprofits that I care about in my community. I can have a book signing and 1,000 people will show up and buy the books, and that will go to the nonprofit. And that's something that's very important, and that's what the rich people have that poor people don't, is they have this gravitas. They can draw people in. They can pull people in. You do the wealth retreats. You're successful. You do the wealth retreats. You are able to pull people in. That's what wealthy people are able to do. Because they have such a high respect within the community, it pulls people in, and they can use that strength, that gravitas that they have to help organizations locally, and that's what I intend to do.
Tom, I think that one of the things that changed my life was when I found a better purpose for money. I ruined the first half of my life chasing money for all the wrong reasons, to prove myself, to be better, because I didn't feel safe and secure. And that's all the wrong reasons. When I found a good reason for money, and it is for contribution and for helping others, Tom, it became my obligation to become wealthier. And I felt good about becoming wealthier because I could now contribute to my family, to my children, to my grandchildren, and the broader community. So I concur with what you said. Tom, thank you for spending the time today. We're having so much fun doing these sessions. I look forward to catching up with you again next week, and we'll discuss some more of the rich habits and the poor habits.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Michael. There's plenty to talk about.
Great. Thank you very much.